Hello, YouTube, and hello, Ninth Age community. This is Charles from Evershade Gaming, and I've got with me today Ben Skipschnit from the Vermin Swarm Alpha LAB team, and we're just doing a formal interview together, talking about the book, talking about a couple of the new dynamics around it. And my first question for Ben is I just wanted to ask him how, or really why, did you want to be involved in this lab process with vermin swarms?
With the lab process, um, I've this would be my fourth book, I guess, counting supplements and such.
Mm-hmm.
So I started off with the conceptual design team when that was around, and
Mm.
we've merged into the ADT, which is now the GDT. And Vermin Swarm was on my list of pick me kind of projects. You're selected to get into these groups. You got to be vetted basically to get into the group, into the lab team. And because I'm an old rat player from the 90s. So that was my second army. I have a huge collection and I wanted to get in there and do it, in my opinion, do it justice, but do it with, a fresh take on it,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like everybody else. I loved the legacy, lived the legacy, and livid when it imploded, exploded, whichever direction it went. So with T9A, it's a new thing. It's a chance to for my old 25 plus years of playing, this is a chance for me to get new things, new life into it. Get new people involved in it because the generations are different now. Things appeal to different people in a different way now.
Mm-hmm.
And still stick with a true rank and file system, not a skirmish system. And to create something different based on our take. Because to me, 2.0 is just a carryover of legacy.
Mm-hmm.
These are stopgap books until an actual gold edition comes out.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a mental thing for people, to wrap their heads around that. It's got to move on. It's got to move away from it. And this is what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, this book is definitely doing something new.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. But you still have to have that familiarity with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a tightrope that we have to walk.
Yeah.
You can't go too far because then it becomes alien.
Mm-hmm.
If you stay the way it was, then it's just going to be as stale as it was. So got to walk that line, and it's a learning process. 5 books in, got 11 more to go. So,
how many points of vermin swarm do you have?
I have no clue. I have. Good Lord, I've got some.
Isn't one of the new?
I have.
Isn't one of the new rules without number?
Yeah, that's for me. No. I had. All right, of all the things that I've collected over the years. One unit I do not have, and that's the Thunderhawks.
Okay.
Now, I didn't like the rats, the big rats with guns. I wanted the big rats
they were really armored.
Yeah,
they were really armored.
To be honest, I did not like GW's model for it, so I never got it because they looked too sci-fi-ish, I guess, and the scale didn't fit with the rest of my army.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've seen some really cool, 3D sculpts
and
the 3D printing. So I'm gonna have to invest and get some of those.
Yeah, and that unit's pretty interesting now. They look like a really strong choice to include in your army.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they're strong. If you want to get into units and stuff, we can get into that later.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, to hear you've been a part of so many book processes already. So definitely a veteran of that. Very cool. So how is this? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, I caught flack for demons. Catching flack for vermin. but it's all right.
Yeah.
It's a learning process. So
Absolutely. Well, and that's one of the things we always try and say is we are a volunteer project, a volunteer team of just dedicated fans, right?
exactly.
So how it,
Nuts.
which I think you already sort of answered it a bit, but how is this lab impacting your hobby? What's your next project for the Vermin Swarm?
For the next project, with the process, we're going through alpha, uh, and I'm hoping, PR department with Visconti, they're he's new to that position, and he's taken a hold with a fresh zeal to try to get that out there and to educate people on the process, because there is a process. It's a long process. It's detailed as to what teams do what, and so this alpha is a vision of the early stages for public play testing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it's a comfortable feeling from the team in what we want it to be. It tells a story.
Mm.
I know people are clamoring about power level and things like that. That's not really what an alpha phase is, to help tone that down, get the reactions to the designs,
Yeah.
which I think have been pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Then this whole alpha phase will be about a 2-month process of fine tuning that and getting it ready for the beta release.
Mm-hmm.
And then the beta release is when it really gets to it's nuts and bolts time. It's in its adolescent stage to move on to gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because you think about it, I mean,
So that'll be my thing. Hopefully, I'll get in with the. I'll finish up with the helping out the monosin for demons,
mm-hmm.
and then we'll roll into a supplement book for the vermin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then I'll see what else I got in plan
yes. For me. Any new hobbying that this book is inspiring in you?
But yeah, I love this type of building the rules, telling a story with the rules, seeing the background, working with that. But it takes a lot of time. So a lot of time I'm doing lab work and not rolling dice.
Mm-hmm.
So
third question, which is, I really enjoyed the Roman theme that is spread across this book, or at least it seems Roman to me. I've also heard it described as Constantinople. I'm curious to hear your take on that.
it kind of has that feeling. We do use a lot of the Roman influences for some of our concepts and the units. There's also a certain time period that we kind of cover, and so I'm not sure exactly Constantinople or the Roman. It's just ideas that we pulled from. Background really doesn't. The team, they're sporadic. It's all about avarice,
Yeah,
and what's in the ninth age world. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint. Oh, yep, that's a definite Roman theme.
mm-hmm.
But we do base a lot of, the triumvirate. There's a rule of an Easter egg type of thing of 3. We try to use the number 3 in it. The 3 isn't important to Vermin Society or anything in the background, but as a team, we thought, let's use that number 3 and divisions of 3 as a cool theme throughout the book.
Yeah, I loved that. I thought that
to
was
follow along, with the triumvirate.
Yeah, I thought that was a great way to encourage multiple casters too, instead of just well. Correct me if I'm wrong. The new Vermin Alpha, there's no access to Wizard Master anywhere, right?
Correct, and that was kind of alluded to in the guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to have a way that was creative than just making a bunch of adepts running around.
Yeah,
that are basically pretty vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
So let's join them together in a way, because the rule of the book is it takes many to equal 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the 3 going as the 1 big master, it gives them a good magic phase.
Yes, yeah. No, and it gives them, it does give them access to those spells that a master can get, which I thought was which I mean previously,
Right.
the previous Slim book had that rule on the Putrid Scholar rule. Um, I can't think of what the Vermin Swarm
Mm-hmm.
character that used to have that. The Plague Priest, was that what it was called?
Plague Priest.
Yeah,
Yep.
he used to have that rule where he could pick anything.
Plague Priest.
Yeah, and so I thought that was a cool way of still including that in a new creative way. And yeah, I mean, I what a big change that the Vermin Dictator had. The big one is that that's what like the old Vermin Demon was called. I know he's a Vermin Dictator, and he had a big design change too. But
Correct. Yeah.
God, I loved all the Roman themes. I cackled when I read "I am the Senate." I thought that was just hilarious. And he even had the what's
Right.
the
Right.
what's the religious position in Rome that was called that the priest, he was like the high
Um,
priest of the city.
Case Yeah, I'm still learning all the background, the new names, because
Hmm.
that's we have work in progress names that I'm
Yes,
used
yeah,
to, and then the background team they go through and do all the names, and then I was what is that one?
yeah.
But they do a great job, so don't
Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, I mean, I'm
okay.
only a
Hmm.
sort of an amateur
But
fan
yeah,
of Roman history, from just various podcasts
right.
and YouTube things. But even just an amateur fan, there was a lot of things I picked out and said, "Oh, that's really neat. Or, that's really cool." You gotta love the Eagle standards. I thought that was an
Yeah,
interesting mechanic too. That sort of all related back to cohorts and cohesion and sort of structure. So
correct. And
how did the team settle on Rome as a theme for the book, when you have also these rats with this crazy technology?
that's pretty much dictated by background
Mm.
and the RT guideline.
Okay.
They kind of marry each other, and then they have that feel of what we can be basically inspired by, and then
Mm-hmm.
take at those ideas and run with it. So
Mm-hmm. Cool.
it was
And
it was based on a society at one point. There's reminiscence of a republic, and then the
mm,
vermin. They still believe that they are that they emulate that ancient society
mm,
and move forward through there. So then it was up to the team to try to what can we use to make that work,
mm.
make the story come alive in the rules so that it fits the background. So when the
See,
gold book comes out, oh yeah, it makes sense.
that even makes more sense to me because in our own actual history, there were so many societies that if they weren't replicating Rome exactly, they were still trying to tie their selves to that legacy. I mean, even in the Russian Tsar is a playoff of Caesar, for their title as emperor. So yeah, that's
Right.
I think that fits. I think in our own narrative history, and I think that could be very interesting when you can it's something from our own history, but something that I can see being very replicable. And I can see something like a vermin sort of attaching itself to that and sort of claiming that, because there's definitely power in that and there's structure in that. And it seems like for a society like vermin probably need a lot of structure, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. When you have that many bodies, you have to put them in a coordinated form, or else it's just helter skelter. And they emulate the phalanx, that type of system, the troop rotation, that's what the whole life is cheap and stuff is supposed to emulate. Is it's
Mm-hmm.
not that they don't really care, that that rat's dead, we don't care. No, there's so many bodies. How can we make a rule to really immerse you in the amount of bodies that are there? It's
Mm-hmm.
not feasible to go ahead and put an actual 1,000 models on the table,
Yeah.
but have that feeling of just overwhelming numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cool.
we just have to find that sweet spot in the rules.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, great. Yeah, I really enjoyed the Roman theme. I thought it was well integrated to across the various units, from the arena beast to the cohorts to the vermin senator. I thought those were all good representations of the sort of I could feel the background coming across those units.
Yeah, chariot races,
Yes. Yeah.
the games,
Mm-hmm.
you have trainers who train the beast to do certain things. You have a religious,
Mm-hmm.
upstart or cult coming into play.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the different times of the ancient history manifesting themselves into the vermin boat
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
gives it flavor.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite unit from the new lab?
My favorite unit are the what do they call it now? The Dreadmill Chariots.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite unit. We call them race carts because of the chariot races.
Yes. Yeah.
Work in progress, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know that's kind of uh, whoever has seen it go, oh my gosh! But I think there's ways to. That's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is that that's not the Doom Spark device, right? Because there's two different chariots now, right? There's the Doom Spark device,
Correct. Correct.
and and then there's actually a
I
thing called
like
the
the Doom
Dreadmill
Spark
Chariot, right?
device because correct. The Dreadmill Chariot is the glass cannon speedster. It's from the chariot racing. It's almost everything is based off of Rome.
Mm.
So in our life, in our society as well, in a lot of cases. I mean, you look at Star Wars, the
Mm.
pod racers.
Yeah,
That's Roman chariot racing.
yeah, yeah.
So build your own little pods, man, and run them around. They're there for communication and to getting into places. And
Mm-hmm.
I know there are several manufacturers that have decent looking models that could be those or create your own. And just so
Mm-hmm.
many different things, old and new, to use for that unit. That's why I like it.
Very cool.
And then the change on the Dreadmill, the old Dreadmill, the Doom Spark device. I love that
Yes,
name.
yeah,
And that's thanks. We basically took the old Dreadmill and split it up. One thing does the combat damage, and the other has the shoot. Because before it was the jack of all trades in one model.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it was just good at doing both things. Well, and then, I mean, being able to sort of separate into those more distinct roles allows people to sort of pick which one would benefit their army, and then also allowed you to open it up where you could have them in units rather than before it was there's no way you could have had a unit of dreadmills. They were just two of them in a list were already a lot to handle. I can't imagine two units of two or three. That'd be nuts. They'd have to be like a zero to. They'd have to have a really weird restriction where you could have a bigger unit, but you couldn't have more models, and that's not fun. So I think that was a very creative solution to that unit.
Cool.
And so and so that's cool that it's the chariots, the race cars are your favorite unit. What's a unit that didn't hasn't quite met your expectations yet?
I'm trying to think. I'm going through the list here. The one that I think it still needs work isn't necessarily a unit, but it's the whole combination.
Okay.
Of the unit and the prefect. Life is cheap. We know this.
Yeah.
And we're trying to work it out because in some cases it's fine, and in other cases it goes the other way. So it's hard to pinpoint because there's so many variables in our game.
Yeah.
Terrain, deployment, dice. So that's why we just with the way we have our team set up in the decision makings that we have, the alpha is a good chance for us to see, okay,
How strong it
man,
is. Yeah.
it's a problem, but how is it a problem?
Mm.
How do we fix it? Rather than just go, oh, it's a problem, let's throw some darts at the board.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We want a clear and defined path of what's the word? I don't know, to be able to fix it,
Mm-hmm. Well, because
we're
it's
not going to do
interesting.
this thing 6 different times. We make sure we get. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's interesting how, on one hand, you have life as chiefs, which are having, wounds done in combat. But on the other hand, all these units are now like resilience 2 or resilience 3. So you're going to be doing more wounds. So I'm curious if that's going to even out. If it's, not going to be as big of a deal. I guess the only issue is, some units only have so many attacks. I'm thinking somebody like an Empire player, like my heavy infantry can only really hit your unit so many times. Some of my more beefy units, they're not going to really ever worry about that. They're always going to be winning combat. But, some of, more equal units, that don't have all the buffs or the synergies on them, they might be losing combat, but they did more wounds to you. So
Right.
It's going to be curious to see how that's going to work. Yeah. But that's one example in a vacuum.
Yeah, because it's exactly. And for me, that's the because I like everything else in the book. That's the only one that gives me a little bit of a heartburn. It's because it's so on the knife edge. If we tweak it too much one way, then the units they'll just crumble.
Yeah,
they'll run away. If we tweak it, leave it as it is, or make it even different, then we just made a unit of slayers, basically. Yeah. So we don't want unbreakable units. That's not vermin. Vermin are supposed to be, I'm tough, take me head on. It's a phalanx system. You're going to lose. Come around me, find ways to outmaneuver me, because I'm a big block. I can't really maneuver that well.
Yeah.
Then the phalanx fails. I mean, that's historical. That's how you defeat the phalanx.
Yeah, that's all Roman defeats were definitely like that. Yeah, where they got flanked, or they got something in the rear, or they got outmaneuvered. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because one of the interesting things too that I'm thinking about is, as one of the changes I thought was incredible, is the army really does have a low discipline now. The highest discipline is the Vermin Senator at a 7, right? 8 if you give him that crown of that gives him an 8. So that's not that high. There's the minimized, from the Eagle standard rocking around. So that's going to help offset that. But I was really glad to see that on the whole, their discipline really shifted down. When before, if you had the Vermin Demon as your general, you had discipline 10 almost everywhere. And it's like, wait, is discipline a weakness in this army?
Yeah, it made the demon model a crutch.
Yeah.
And so that's not fun as an old rat player. I don't want a crutch in my army. I want to be able to play and then win on tactics or be able to move it around. But then again, it's dice, and you have to have a feeling. So I don't want to have that model to make my army work. I want to try different things and make it work.
Yeah.
Maybe my units will do the heavy lifting. Instead of the demon just going through killing everything.
Yes.
So that was one of the changes that we had to make with that, with the dictator model.
Which I feel like he still is an interesting piece. I could still see why people would want to play with him, because he got way cheaper too, and he's got all these nice upgrades. Where before it's like, he was that static cost basically. And Pontifex Maximus, that was the rule I was trying to think later. That was the religious leader of Rome. Pontifex Maximus. Right. That was actually a title people held for life. You never stop being a Pontifex Maximus. It was very interesting, because I know that because Caesar was a Pontifex Maximus, and he had that that title for life. Or I believe it was life. Correct me if I'm wrong, Roman historians in the chat, in the
Sure.
comment section.
And just like Julius Caesar, the dictators are there for a reason. But if they get too big-headed, they get taken out. That's
Yeah.
why it's ruinous dictator.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Well, and I mean, there's still all the assassins too. I was intrigued how they included the assassins, and it was interesting that they still made it that the assassins were not so good on their own, but when you take two or three of them, they start looking quite interesting.
That's because from the get-go, we wanted 3 assassins. We wanted somehow to have a 3, a type of, that number 3 again.
Yeah.
And those are really, for me, I use the old Naziri, the original assassins from the Middle East as a good inspiration for those guys. It's about the same time period, and it fits in with what they are. They were weak guys, but they wanted just bloody, brutal, public, taken out of political leaders or whatever their targets were, and then offer up their own deaths, because their mission was done. And so that kind of fits the theme of these assassins and doing the same way. That's why their stats are low. If you compare it to the old slim assassin, they have nothing, that the old assassin has.
Yeah.
But you put 3 of them together, and now you've got, a powerhouse against some things.
Yeah.
And they go after characters. They go after the character's friends. That's what an assassin does. He spreads the panic in it.
Yeah.
If I don't kill you, the old mafioso thing.
I'm gonna go after you. I'm gonna go after the guy next to you. Yeah. Yeah. No.
Exactly.
I thought they looked quite good. They're very interesting. Is there,
talking
about the Slim book? Is there any units that you're gonna miss, from the Slim book? Because not everything got translated, 1-to-1 from the Slim. Some things.
Nothing. I think pretty much everything from the old book is in the new book in one form or another. I mean, I look at there's nothing in my box that I can't use that I was using in the old that I can't use in the new. There's actually more things now, I believe, that I can use in the new book, and I'm happy about that. Yeah. Because this little guy, he's the old guy. 40 million. I'll find a use for you yet, dude.
Yep. Yeah, because another interesting thing that I noted, this is just completely off topic from the Slim. This is just another unit. Sure. I noticed that Vermin Swarms, not only did the Slim book, with the what is the Doom sword called? The Secrets of the Doomblade. Not only does the Secrets of the Doomblade,
old Doomblade,
still have the D6 wounds, but the cannon also now has access to the D6 wounds of the Trial and Terror. So Vermin Swarms still can claim to be the only faction that has a D6 wound multiplier, which is extremely rare. That's only 2 examples I can think of across the book, or across all armies.
Right. Yeah, and that was some of the things that we questioned, and we put it out to the higher ups, and they were fine with it because we had it as a downside. It has a downside as well.
Yes,
because you have to upgrade. That mouse cannon went through several different revisions, I guess you call it that way, concepts. It was supposed to be like, if anybody remembers the old Crack's Call spell, put a line, and then everything was hit.
Oh,
that was one because we wanted it as a rail gun. Electric and magic, because the technology that the rats like to experiment with. So we went with the D6, on the upgraded, upcharge, Trial and Terror now is the rule for it. Yeah, and it's a short range. So
it's only 24
counters to.
Yeah, so which is still still far. 24 inches can reach a lot of stuff, but at least it's not 48 or something. Even 36 would be far.
Exactly. And when the book comes out, pay attention to the rule on it with the mishap.
Yes.
For that.
Yeah, because the mishap,
It's
if you just misfire, right? You're taking these damage points, right? D6 at a high strength
correct.
and a high AP.
Right.
Yeah, which that cannon
really
doesn't.
lucky with dice.
It doesn't misfire like a normal cannon, though. Now, right? It just has the mishap, so it just takes the damage.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. All the weapon teams, all the artillery, they have their own mishap chart.
Yeah.
Because they're some of them are powered differently.
Yes.
You know, so you can't really, So we wanted a different mechanic for that.
Mm-hmm. Does the cannon mishap on a greater roll, or is it still just on a 1? Like, does a 1 and a 2?
Depends with. Scrolling up. Because it all depends on which version you use. If you use a trial and terror or not.
Oh yes, it does mishap on a roll of 1 and 2. So yeah, that's a greater risk, isn't it?
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So you're either missing, because it'll have the aim 4. So if you roll a 3, you're okay. If you roll high, then you've hit.
Well, some gigantic things you'll even hit on a 3.
You're suffering.
So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, +1.
Yeah, so that is obviously pretty strong, but if you do misfire, you could take a lot of wounds, possibly just totally blow up if you rolled bad on those hits. Interesting. Right. Yeah.
That's why we gave them less hit points than other normal war machines.
Oh,
other
really?
War machines have 5 or more. These only have 4.
Oh, okay. That is a big difference, isn't it? Yeah, they only have 4 hit points. Yeah, that makes that choice a lot more difficult too, especially if they take them like a fireball or something earlier in the game. They took a couple wounds from it. You only got 2 wounds left. Yeah. You're almost gonna more than likely, if you misfire, you're gonna blow up. So that was interesting.
Yeah, wow. Swarm of insects.
Yeah,
that's a good.
Yeah, I see it's got 0 armor too, so that's beautiful. Well, yeah. Because looking through this book, I feel like one of the things people thought about when Dread Elves came out is this going to bring back pyromancy, or is this going to make pyromancy really powerful? And at least I haven't felt a lot of attraction to pyromancy, and I haven't seen it in as many lists. But R2 Rats makes me curious if it's going to intrigue people again, because that makes
good.
That makes the big hit that hits everything. That makes that spell really, really powerful. Which cosmology doesn't have that, but cosmology doesn't have as many magic missiles. So that is interesting. Right. Yeah.
And that was another thing with with our units, like the chariots. They do basically they're flammable. The grenadiers, they're flammable. Yes. Things that have a flaming attack. Why aren't they flammable? If they're carrying around oil or grenades or whatever,
Yeah, why aren't they blowing up when people hit them with fireball? Yeah, that was the other thing I saw too. Is a lot of units got flammable put on them too. So yeah, so that also made me think, oh man, do you want to run pyromancy now? Because Vermin Swarm are just going to be taking it on the nose, or even with a pyroclastic flow, that spell could really do some serious damage to anybody now. So,
right, because it opens up other play styles for other opponents to counter.
Yes.
Now that our units, now the Queen archers from High Elves,
Queensguard, yeah,
they're flammable attacks.
Yeah, oh man, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This could be really powerful. Yeah. Well, even because shooting can still benefit from a flaming standard. So, I'm almost curious.
Yeah. One time. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe people will just start taking flame banners.
I hardly see that banner.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much, I feel like Vermin Swarms, or not Vermin Swarms, Infernal Boars play with the flaming banner, and that, it's a little bit rare otherwise to see it on that many other units. But now it's like, well, rats are flammable. They're, Maybe you'll take see more a little more alchemy, a little bit more pyromancy. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
You don't
yeah,
even need
yeah.
flaming
Because
swords.
for the vermin, exactly.
You're already winning them on twos.
Because the vermin swarms, they got a big block, but all the little support units around, they're fairly vulnerable,
Yes.
and they're worth points too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So clean them out first, and then go after the big blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Hold the big blocks up, clean out the little stuff, get your points, and then you can kind of pin the big movable blocks into
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
And that's how you ruin the life of phalanxes back in ancient days.
Yeah. That's very true. Yeah. Hmm.
There's their Achilles heel built into the army. So
Yeah. And I mean, another interesting thing I noticed with this, there's this whole tunneling theme that's been added to the vermin swarms
right,
that definitely was not present before. It's very interesting. I think it's similar, but quite a bit different than the sort of Warrior of the Dark Gods, gate portals. It's
almost
similar
right.
that there's markers, but different in just the way different units have access to it and the way that that can work. And I just thought that was quite interesting overall too, because the army to me isn't very fast. You have a couple fast units like those chariots, like the giant rats, like the dire rats. But everything else
Right.
is marching 10. A couple things are marching 12. But that's about it. So that's an interesting way to introduce a sort of a different movement mechanic to the army that they have access to.
Right. And then with being able to deploy them, it's got to be on your side and stuff, so you can't sneak over immediately into the other side like some of
Yeah.
the other inches away. But
Mm-hmm.
you can move them if you pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, for one, it's immersive. Rats and tunnels, they go hand in
Mm-hmm.
hand. We
Yeah.
had to do something with them,
Yeah.
make it worthwhile. It's also, every army has a scout or an ambush,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, but we wanted to make ours a little bit different and more
Mm-hmm.
immersive to fit with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a two birds, one stone kind of deal. And
Yeah. Yeah. Because
and it ties into
does the Vermiswarm army have the lab? Do they don't really have a lot of access to Vanguard or scouting, right? Besides the tunneling, the way they can ambush through the tunnels.
no, that's it.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that's great. I mean, it's
Yeah, they don't have any of that.
yeah, that's a serious limitation, but a way to sort of still introduce a interesting sort of movement game mechanic that can influence the way people play games.
Right. Yep.
Oh, Ben, or anything else you'd want to bring up?
Was that our list already?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
else you got? What other questions?
Oh, we already touched on the life is cheap in R2 when we talked about the thing that still needs some process. He felt
Right.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have any other
Play
questions.
test. Because I was going to props to play testing. They've done a great job, and yeah, they have pinpointed a lot of issues and things that we've worked through, and there's some things that. But we don't see the repetition in certain things, and we don't have the data. So that's why we really need the alpha to get tested and to
Mm-hmm.
give the the key word is constructive criticism.
Yes. Yeah.
ACS is going to be doing their job of collecting all the feedback and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, we want a defined process in how to fix something. We don't just want to have a whole bunch of different ideas and we say, oh well, let's see if this works, because we are on a time frame to get this done and get it done right.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at on that.
But
then there's some things that we have to change to get it to our standards and to our background and feel, and it'll be fine in the end. But like they say, change is tough. But
yeah, well, change is hard for everyone.
I look at my guys down here, and they'll see it. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Ben, I really appreciate your time and your answers and just your
Sure.
feedback on this lab.
Hey, I appreciate y'all's effort in putting this out there and getting the word out, and let's get to playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll have to. I know I have a friend he started collect. He only just started collecting vermin swarms in ninth age. So I'll have to hit him up for a
Mhm.
game. See what he puts together for a list.
There you go. Let me know how it goes.
All right, we'll do. Well, Ben, thank you, and thank you everybody who's watched and listened to this. And we'll see you soon for some more ninth age content.